Throughout history, the Jewish people have had a connection to the moon. Other cultures revered the sun, but we, as a smaller nation, we saw ourselves in the small moon. Just like God, the moon would always return, providing us with the safety of its protective light. Rosh Chodesh, literally meaning head of the month or head of the moon, is a minor holiday that marks the beginning of every Hebrew month that's matched with every new moon. Originally, there was not a set calendar for Jewish months. Instead, the ancient court would declare a new month after receiving the testimony of two reliable witnesses reporting that they had seen the new moon. Then the message was spread throughout Israel and Babylonia via small fires on hilltops. When a new moon was announced, someone would go to the top of the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem with a long pole of wood. He would set the end of his pole on fire and wave it around until he could see someone on another hilltop waving their pole. The second person waved their pole until he could see a third person. And so the message went all the way from Jerusalem to Babylon. Today, we don't need to do that. Rather, we announce the new month in synagogue, according to our calendars, on the Saturday before the new month at the conclusion of the Torah reading. We recite a special prayer called Birkat HaChodesh, the blessing of the month. It's a special prayer that articulates our hope for the month to come, from peace, prosperity, success in business, good health, piety. The prayer includes an announcement on the day on which the Rosh Chodesh, the new month, would fall, and the name of the month that's about to start. And so today I can say that the Hebrew month of Shabbat started last week, and we can see that from the new moon in the sky. Rabbi Daniel Klein teaches us that our ancestors saw in the cycle of the moon insights about our experience of God. The fullness of the moon, when it lights up the sky, came to represent the presence and the experience of God in our lives. It's not an accident that many Jewish holidays, especially Purim and Pesach and Sukkot, they all begin when the moon is full. The darkest of nights, when the moon has waned and is not visible, came to represent the hiddenness of God's experience and distance from our lives. The moment of the moon's emergence from darkness, which is marked at the beginning of the month, it developed the practice of the blessing of the new month. And we called it Rosh Chodesh, which literally means new month, but can also mean the beginning of a renewal. Our ancestors' custom of marking time by the cycle of the moon is a practice of our faith. It's based on the recognition that all experiences, whether dark or light, traverse a never-ending loop, one that is yielding to the other. By making the beginning of the cycle the moment of rebirth, just as darkness is turning back towards light, we plant a flag on the side of light and hope. It orients us towards the inevitability of renewal. In the practice of Rosh Chodesh, we affirm this eternal cycle of nearness and distance, of God and faith, and hope and return, the ever-ending cycle, just as in the moon. But faith alone is not the only thing we mark in the Rosh Chodesh cycle. we also think about the action that is needed, the action that we need to do to bring about renewal. And our ancestors found this call for action in the stories about the moon in our tradition. So one story in the Talmud is a fun story about the divine injustice of making the moon smaller than the sun. God had originally said that there would be two great lights in the sky, Genesis chapter 1. And God made the two great lights. But the angels objected, saying, how is it possible that two kings can wear one crown? So God said to the moon, go and make yourself smaller. And then God said, the great light will rule the day, and the small light will rule the night. Again, Genesis chapter 1. But the moon was not happy. She complained about this turn of events because she pointed out, should I make myself smaller just to please the sun? So God has to console the moon for making her a lesser light. And so when we look up at the day's sky, we can see the moon. But when we look up in the night sky, we cannot see the sun. But the moon was still not appeased. And finally, God says to the people of Israel in the book of Numbers, bring me a sin offering by fire on my behalf for what I did to the moon to make her smaller. And so there's a call to action. God even has to forgive God's self for doing something that even God realized was wrong. What's extraordinary about this fantasy story is that actually the apparent size of the sun and the moon from the perspective of the earth is the same. When we look up in the sky, the sun and the moon look like the same size. And there's a reason for that. The diameter of the sun is actually 400 times larger than the diameter of the moon. But the moon is 400 times closer to the earth. So the ratio between distance and size is almost equal, which results in a perception that the moon is the same size as the sun. Now, they did not know that in Genesis. So the whole story leads us to a conclusion that diminishing one person in favor of another is another form of darkness. There's another story about the moon in the Talmud, and it's connected to a midrash in which the Israelite women at Mount Sinai refuse to give the jewelry to their husbands to build the golden calf. And because of their refusal, God rewards them with the power, like the moon, to renew themselves and to be youthful once again. And so Jewish practice has appointed Rosh Chodesh, the day of the new moon, as a special day for women. Women have always and traditionally gathered together at Rosh Chodesh, the day of the new moon, for a time of praying and learning and chatting and shopping and discussing. And all of these things, again, lead to us realizing that the new moon stories have much to do with finding a path towards justice. So in both of these stories, and through our ancestors' commitment to dedicating our calendar to the moon, represents that we want to renew ourselves time and time again. We want to help build a better world and help bring it about. This month of Shabbat, in which the festival of Tu B'Shvat will be held next week, we are invited to contemplate and cultivate these aspects of the symbolism of the moon, of dark times, of light, of faith, of action. These rituals and our teachings are timely for our own day. And so we can recite the blessing for Rosh Chodesh, Shabbat, the new moon, the new month of Shabbat. And the blessing goes like this. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, who creates the skies with his word and all heaven's host with the breath of God's mouth. God gives them appointed times and roles, and they never miss their cue, doing their creator's bidding with gladness and joy. God is the true creator and has told the moon to renew itself. It's a beautiful crown for the people, carried by God, for those who will proclaim the beauty of the universe. The new moon of the Hebrew month Shabbat is now in the sky. May it come to us and for the house of Israel, all for goodness. And may the Holy One renew it upon us and upon all peoples, for life, for health, for joy, for gladness, for salvation, and for consolation. And let us say, Amen.